Hello and welcome to the last webinar of our Shift series, LinkedIn and Networking in the Pandemic. My name is Maria Hanif and I'm a current arts and science student in my second year of health studies. I'm joined here by today Therese Coleman, who is an alumni engagement officer here at the University of Saskatchewan in the College of Arts and Science, who is assisting me with the webinar today. The University of Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. We would like to welcome all of you, our alumni, students, and friends from whatever treaty territory or land you are joining us from today. Although we're unable to join and gather in person, it is great to have this online opportunity to connect and learn with you. For this webinar, our guests will have a 30-minute conversation that centers around networking during the current pandemic. This will be followed by a 15-minute Q&A opportunity from our attendees. If you have a question you would like to ask, please enter it into the Q&A box at any time and it will be addressed during the Q&A portion of the event. As you have likely seen, we will not be using the chat function today. For current students who attend 3 or more shift sessions, you will receive a co-curricular credit or CR. The CCR is a personalized and official record for the university approved and facilitated activities you've been involved in while a student here. We will also be giving out a USask bottle as a door prize for today's session. We will be contacting the lucky winner by email later today. For those that attend all 5 shift sessions, you will be attended to win a pair of Apple AirPods. We will be recording today's session and you'll be able to access the recording on the Arts and Science YouTube channel after today's session. Our student moderator today is Vedahi Lanki. She's a third-year undergraduate student pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Bioinformatics. In the future, she hopes to combine her interests in STEM with her passion for social justice and community development. She's a peer mentor and a student ambassador with the Arts and Science College, opinions editor at The Sheaf, which is the University of Saskatchewan student-led newspaper, and is an avid reader. Thank you for moderating our Q&A today, Vedahi. And finally, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce our guest speaker today, Dawne Warner. Dawne Warner has a degree in sociology from the University of Saskatchewan and an ontological coaching certificate from the Newfield Institute. As an employment coordinator at USask Student Employment and Career Center, her experience in human resources and entrepreneurship supports her passion in supporting and advising students and alumni as they transition their careers. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and experience with us today, Dawne. And now I will turn everything to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And yeah, this is exciting. Our last kickback at the Shift conference, which is so exciting. So I looked at the list of participants. I recognize a couple of names in there. So that's wonderful that you're taking time out of your lunch hour to join me and the rest of the crew here. So today we're going to talk about LinkedIn and networking. And definitely this is an important topic with COVID, probably a little bit more than it ever has been. I think we've got a couple of poll questions, so I don't forget those. We'll maybe pull up. One of the questions that we're going to ask first is with respect to if you're a student or alumni, just so we can get a sense of who's here in the room. This is the exciting part of the virtual world. I'm talking to a computer and I don't necessarily know who's out there virtually. So I just want to take the next 25 minutes so that I can hone in a little bit on who's in the audience and maybe I can tailor things a little bit for you. So if you can take a moment and just answer the question and just give us an idea if you're an alumni or if you're a student, that would be great. And then we'll pop up the results. Okay, well, okay, mostly students, but we do have a really good presence too of our alumni. So, okay, we'll keep it mixed a little bit. And then the next question is just with respect to LinkedIn. Just so I get an idea, this is definitely a presentation around LinkedIn, but of course we could probably talk for hours on it. So just want to get a sense in the room, who has a LinkedIn profile currently? So whether or not I need to start at ground zero or just kind of skim through that part and can go maybe a little deeper into more the networking component. So if you take a minute, fill the question out, we'll go from there. Okay, great. Well, yeah, about 60-40 split. So, okay, I'll probably go with the flow here on presentation and definitely make sure you take care the Q&A. Ask questions in there. You don't have to wait till the end. Honestly, put your questions in as we go. And if they get answered through the presentation, that's okay too. But that way there's some questions that we can get rolling because we definitely have like 45 minutes together, which isn't a lot of time, but we can definitely cover some ground here. So today, what I'm going to talk about is kind of how to create a strong LinkedIn profile, because definitely what we're finding with COVID more than ever, the numbers on LinkedIn have skyrocketed and there's way more professional connections happening there than prior to the pandemic. So it is definitely wanting to put your best foot forward to make a strong first impression. So I'm going to share with you some tips around that. Also, in terms of before you even do that, is understanding you and the benefits in terms of your job search and networking, and why it's important to really have good self-awareness around your skills, knowledges, and abilities. And one tip that I can share with you once you kind of got the other two going for you is the career information interviewing and how to do that and take advantage of that through utilizing LinkedIn. And then a little bit on the job search. So we'll see how we get to that one, but I can give you some tips on it. So the first thing is, I'm not sure what everyone, and I guess this could have been a poll question too, is the word networking and how you feel about that term. I know it's not my favorite word, even being an extrovert and loving connecting relationships with others and new people and strangers. But it really is, if you change it into even just connection, building relationships, meaningful relationships. And really, that's what networking is. It's been around for decades and decades and centuries. It really is about just connecting and finding people with common interests, mentorships and mentees, and just looking for mutual beneficial ways to support one another. So that's really what networking is. It's just kind of knocking on the door of people or companies that are interested or intrigued and you want to learn more about. So if you kind of flip it that way, that might help any of you out there that maybe aren't loving that and are very nervous about networking. And when the question that you kind of contemplate before you kind of step out and connecting with others is, what are those problems in the world, challenges that you would like or you have ideas and solutions around? And the reason why that question can be really meaningful is because before you even start to reach out to people and wanting to learn more about their industry or their career story or how their role and what it is that they do, it gives you a strong sense of what some of those companies might be that are more intriguing and guided to you, and give you some insights to basically where you can make your difference in the world and how you can support others as well. Now, like I said, part of the key is the beginning, which is your personal brand. And again, you could do a whole workshop just on personal brand in itself. But a part of this is just taking stock of what your skills, abilities, interests, achievements, and experiences. And I know sometimes it sounds like, yeah, okay, I get it. That's easy. But honestly, it's really taking some time for self-reflection and going back through your life experiences into your childhood. It's kind of like, what skill sets, interpersonal soft skills, did you really demonstrate or have you honed? And even through COVID, what skills have you kind of been drawing on a little bit more than others? And then what kind of examples through your life can you attach to this? Because this is where you can then quantify and qualify it, which is key to when you're actually doing your job search, but it's also key to conversations that you're going to have with respect to building your LinkedIn About Me section. And when you reach out to build your network and knock on people's doors virtually, you're going to need to know, what are your goals? And if you don't like the word goals, it's not my favorite word. I sub it for intentions, or, what would you like to achieve in the world? Or, in the short term, long term, what does that look like to you? And so getting some clarity around that's going to be really helpful for you deciding who the priorities are in terms of starting those connections and which companies you want to start researching, That's really an important step to find as well. And what do you value? So looking at a company's culture, their mission, vision, values, where they're going in the world, what their intention or big picture is to make a difference in the world. It really helps you narrow down a really big world into a little bit more of a small manageable place and where to begin. And that's will help you then lead to who do you need to reach out to. And LinkedIn is a really good resource to helping you do that, because there's an alumni place. You can go to the USASC page, look at the people that are there that graduate from the university, and they're always really helpful in wanting to connect. So what you're going to identify in your brand about yourself, these are some of those key competencies that employers are really looking for. And the hard skills tend to be the ones that are easier to identify for most students and most people in the employment sector. The ones that are kind of those transferable skills, the human literacy, soft skills that they've been called, sometimes they're a little bit more challenging for you to really articulate unless you take some of that self-reflection time. But given what the pandemic has done in terms of shifting all of our world so quickly, understanding the transferable skill set toolbox that you have is really critical today more than probably it ever has been. And it really is going to be important as you go forward. So this is where that self-reflection, taking time to really assess, where did I get these skills like adaptability is a huge one. One that's not on here, but just as important, is resilience, grit. Those are words that you're hearing a lot about. And it's kind of like, how can you demonstrate how you maybe survived or thrived during this time is going to be really key, because companies are shifting so much in the days and years to come, that having employees that can demonstrate that and kind of be there to bolster them, be a team member, be a leader with that throughout that change and uncertainty is going to be some of the keys that employers are looking for. So when we come now to LinkedIn, it really can be a place to be found and to find people, because especially now going outdoor knocking doesn't work so well, but it allows you now to find companies that are global and international. And what I've been hearing from employers internationally is now they've realized that they can actually start hiring employees from other countries. And the nice thing is they actually don't have to physically move them to their country or home base. With the hybrid models that are coming and the remote working that has really gone to an all-time high, as we all know, more companies are recognizing the comfort around and trusting it now. So they are opening their doors a little bit more to possibilities to hiring employees that have the skill sets and the personality that matches with their corporate culture. So this is a nice thing too. And this is where you really understanding the kind of value and attributes and education that you can bring, finding those companies and then reaching out to them, and don't allowing the borders or the city location to be a barrier. And this is where knocking on their door is going to be beneficial through LinkedIn, because there are so many people on there and activity on there has increased dramatically in the last 12 to 18 months. So again, it is very professional based. It's not like the memes like you have Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, as those of you that have profiles. It really is a professional workplace. LinkedIn has done a really good job in terms of the community and connection and keeping it more professional. So for those of you that maybe the 40% that don't have a LinkedIn profile, and maybe you're just not fans of social media, LinkedIn is completely different. So I do highly encourage you to hop on. It's really easy to begin to build that profile and have a look and start looking around, because you'll find that it is a completely different experience than the other social media platforms that you might not enjoy as much. On here, you can search and apply for jobs as well. Like I said, you can go onto the USASC page. You can find people, which are alumni, other peers that actually work at the USASC. And of course, alumni are wonderful wanting to talk to other alumni. You can kind of find jobs and trace people and see, okay, well, they have my degree. What jobs do people have that have my degree? And LinkedIn Source will show you that. So it really can help you tailor to finding what are some of those companies or jobs I could work for, and finding them people that actually are in those positions, so you can start to have a conversation with them to learn a little bit more to make sure that's a fit for you. As well, you can find recruiters, which unless there's a job posting, recruiters are a little harder to find or spend time with you. So the recruiters of the companies are on there. And the other thing is they actually are looking through keyword searches. So if you have a strong LinkedIn profile, recruiters are actually looking for people actively through LinkedIn and then knocking on your door to see if you're interested in applying for a position with them or having a conversation. So the one thing is to remember is that LinkedIn is 24/7, 365 days a year, and it really is that resume never sleeps. But it's a little beyond a resume, even. It's more like a CV resume. It's where you get to put so much more of your life in there. So that's the one thing to remember is you don't want to just take your resume and then just cut and paste it onto a LinkedIn profile, because you really can. It's almost like taking your cover letter that you might want to write, to share a little bit more about who you are, how you want to show up in the world, blending it with your resume and throwing in some of the stuff from your CV, which goes into your accomplishments, publications, any of that stuff that you've done. You can make it a lot more holistic and really showcase a lot more of your skills, abilities, and knowledge and interests as well. So you're going to give, but it's very professional focused still within that. But you can go into your personal experience is in terms of the professional side, volunteer, your interests, your capabilities. They've got sections there you can kind of rate and take some learnings to get micro badges as well with certain skill sets. So you can kind of quantify and demonstrate that you have a basic skill set or a certain level, because LinkedIn has now added a whole other area around that. Like I said, you're really going to be able to work it towards attracting recruiters and other connections within industries you want to be in. So part of this part is really before is that brand awareness researching, because then when you go to write your LinkedIn profile, you're embedding some of those key skills and words, because when you look at, okay, this is the kind of job I'm looking for, the industry I want to be in, here's some of those things that are important to them. Here's the values, here's those key words that are kind of the industry talk within that business or that organization. And then you can embed that through natural conversation in your profile, because then those keywords will pop up as well when they go to do a search. So with respect to building your profile, one thing to remember is a profile picture is really important. So like this one, you'll notice it's kind of mid-shoulder, chest up. It is to be a headshot. And I know there's some great pictures that show us all, on top of Mount Everest or something like that. Just kidding. I don't have one of those. But just, it's really a professional shot. It's because I can't meet you in person. So I want to be able to see your face. I want to be able to connect with you as much as you can in this virtual world. So this is where it's kind of like you want it top shoulders up, so we can really connect and see you. So a neutral background. Nowadays, you don't have to go and get a professional headshot. Most of the iPhone and Android phones have a strong enough camera that you can just get a friend or do a selfie. But you just want to make sure it looks really professional, and it's showing you in a beautiful light, as well as then there is the background picture, the cover page. There are default ones that LinkedIn has, but again, if there is a photo that you have that kind of demonstrates something that is your passion, you can put that in the background for yourself. Just make sure that it doesn't overshadow you or take away from what your picture is all about. So you want to keep it neutral unless it really does add value and shares a little bit more of a story about who you are. So now in terms of building your network, as we said, we've got your brand, you kind of built that beginning part. Now we need to complete the profile. And so this is the part where you want to go, there's a section that's your summary or your about me section. And this is where I would highly encourage you, now that you've kind of honed in industry or possible positions or career paths you're wanting to look at, then look at people that have those profiles and they will see that. So remember, it says when you view someone on LinkedIn, they do see that you have viewed their profile, which is totally fine. It's just, it's all above board and being transparent about who's seeing you. But it gives you an opportunity to go in and read their about me, look at their profile and see, okay, so am I seeing the career story about them? And then how can I benefit for telling my story? So it gives you an idea of just kind of, like I said, what's the language, the tone, and then how can you weave it so that you bring a little bit of your professional, personal self into it and tell the story about how you want to show up in your career path, how you can be of service to an organization, and what are some of those key skills and those attributes that you are bringing, and kind of what do you want to do in the world? Like, what are those problems you're wanting to solve in this world, and how do you want to be of service within the workplace? That's the kind of stuff and questions to be asking yourself, as well as tell me a little bit about yourself, and as well asking for the job, like asking, put a call of action. So it's kind of like, I'd love to connect with you, send me a message, whatever that is, and engage them in terms of being open and curious to have a conversation, because it really is going to be important for you to start being noticed on LinkedIn. And as well, researching, like we said, you want to personalize, and then you want to build your network through looking at LinkedIn with respect to the alumni that I've talked about, and then building your network through there, making connections. And now it doesn't have to be just like where they're friends, like them, but you're looking at colleagues, peers, people of interest. You can start following them as well, reaching out to certain alumni. And I always encourage, if you're going to connect with somebody, there's a section that you can put a message. I always encourage you to put something in that message box. Don't just be passive in the sense, okay, I want to connect with you, and just hit connect. Put something of meaning. Why did you want to connect with me? What is the intention or the meaning? It's just that nice personal touch. And then when they accept it, go back and reply and thank them, and then see if you can have that conversation continue. Because the one thing with networking is you create moments of happenstance and synchronicity. And the thing is, the person you're talking to today might not be the one that has a job for you, but they are connected to other people that leads that through the thread and the web. And just so you're aware, 80% of the positions that are filled aren't even posted. They're not a job posting, because they've come through employee referrals or moments where the position wasn't available, and the next day someone got promoted, they left a position, something happened, and suddenly there's a vacancy in the company. And if they can fill that vacancy through a resume or contact that they have, they will do that, because otherwise, when you go through a full posting phase, it can take 3 to 6 months to hire and put someone in that position, which definitely puts a strain on their internal workforce and is a cost to them. So that's why it's important to be more proactive, and LinkedIn allows you to do that. So you want to make sure that you recognize that LinkedIn's not necessarily just this job search tool, even though when you go on, they do have a job section, and recruiters will post positions and you can find positions through there. The big thing and the intention when you're going through it, though, is to think it in terms of building connections, building relationships, because you are really looking at, it might get you a job tomorrow, but some of those connections you make can help you through your career path for decades and years to come. And to share with you, the why I'm sitting here with you today is because of a connection that I had first at university, then re-met the person years later at a conference that we attended. And then years later, when I was looking to pivot my career, found out that they were managing the Career Center. And that's how I got the position. That's how I got shortlisted out of probably 300 resumes and got a phone call from the manager. And so that's the thing, is you never know when that's going to happen. And honestly, that's happened throughout every position that I've had. It has been because of someone that I've connected with. So never, ever devalue a connection you have, because you never know how someone's path will shift and where they will end up, and how you might end up hiring them, or vice versa. And so again, for those of you that don't have one, it's not too late. There's definitely a lot more room for things to happen on LinkedIn. One thing I want to share with you as we get close to wrapping things up is that I want you to know that there's a lot of value in posting as well. So if you like to write, or you've written research papers or blogs or stuff like that around things that are of interest to you, whatever your niche might be, posting it is really important, because unlike Instagram or Facebook, which are really saturated, LinkedIn, what they show through their algorithm is that people stumble upon content, which means it's not like they go looking for something. It pops up through the algorithm of what LinkedIn uses, and will just kind of show things of interest. And what happens is, when one post, you have about 300 people on average that see it, which is way higher than on the other social media sites. So because a lot of people aren't doing it, myself included, I don't spend the time to write blogs and posts and stuff, but they are showing that if you can start taking that moment to write meaningful content around stuff that it interests you, that it is really the level of engagement is high and you will get yourself noticed. And so the other thing to remember is it's not just like a one hit wonder. So you would be needing to post on a consistent basis. So whether it's daily or weekly, you do want to be consistent because then they get comfortable, familiar with you, and you're building that level of trust and engagement. They're learning about you. And it's a way basically for people to come and find you rather than you have to go find them. So there is that technique. The last one I'm going to share with you is the career interviewing information. So what this one will help you do is where you can reach out and you interview somebody that you're interested in either position or their company. And what you're going to do is ask for 15 to 20 minutes of their time and you're going to interview them. And on the SEC website, we do have the career information link that will show you some questions you can ask. But basically, the questions you're wanting to ask are, why are you interested in this industry? Tell me about what are the challenges within your career path? How did you, through your career path, get to the job you're in today? And really, it's where you're being open and curious to looking at their career story, helping to see how they got there. So you can kind of start to see how you might get there one day. And you're opening that conversation. And this isn't a place where you start to say, hey, do you have a job for me? You're opening the dialogue. You're getting curious. You're gathering information. It's research based. And then one of the most important things you're wanting to do when you're closing it off is ask them, well, after you thank them, of course, you want to ask them if they know of somebody else that would be beneficial for you to continue the conversation. And that's how you just keep that thread going and connecting to more and more people. And eventually there will be somebody, when the opportunity comes up, will remember you and will likely drop you lines, give your number to someone, ask for your resume. And that's where the networking, the connection, and building professional relationships is just invaluable to you moving forward. So, like here I said, it helps you gain so much insight. It is so important. And this is a really underutilized tool, especially with LinkedIn. You can find recruiters, but more importantly, you can find hiring managers, you can find C suite executives. If you are reaching out to them, from the one thing you want to be mindful of is they will take the time to have that conversation with you, but you want to make sure that you've done your due diligence, you've done your research, and you're writing them a very impactful email that is showing true connection to their company and true interest in finding what that parallel is so that they will take that time to have the conversation. But C-suite will have a conversation with you when they have time, because the one thing that they find is they're disconnected from the entry level, simply because the operational managers, they're operating and they're doing everything day to day, but they don't necessarily pass along a lot of the strategic problem solving ideas that their team have, just because they're so busy. So sometimes those at the senior executive level love to have these new ideas because they're at that 50,000 feet, they're at that strategic level, they have to be innovative. And so if you've got some innovative ideas to help them solve some of the challenges they have or the growth they want to go to in the next 10 years or 3 years, definitely drop those CEOs or senior leaders an email. And who knows, there will be no harm. You drop them a line, a message. If you don't hear back from them, nothing lost, but it doesn't hurt. You just want to be very intentional and make sure that you're aware that it's first impressions. So you're wanting to take the time, do the research, and come across more professionally is really important. And I would again say, make sure you have anyone proofread, even emails that you're writing to these senior leaders, have someone have a look through it before you send it. There's nothing wrong with having another set of eyes on something, because it is a first impression that you're making, and you want to do it right. So a little bit about professional etiquette. I know that it's changed a little bit with respect to in-person versus online, but it still really is important. So if you do have a conversation with somebody, follow up and say thank you. And if someone gave you a name of somebody else to have a connection with and you've had that conversation again, follow up and let them know and say, hey, thanks for giving me that lead. I had a conversation. It was great, meaningful. I really appreciate it. If there's anything that I can do to support you, let me know. And that's always a nice thing too, because a lot of times companies don't have student perspectives for onboarding, recruiting, how to engage. So you can also, as a student, share with these employers that you're speaking with and say, if there's ever anything that you want a student's perspective on, let me know. I'd be happy to have a look at it for you. So this is where you can make it mutually beneficial. Business cards, yeah, I kind of laugh. We don't really have them. Virtually, your business card is your LinkedIn profile. So again, make sure that you're going through it, making sure it's up to date. Having another set of eyes on it is really, really important. And gratitude is huge. Reconnection is huge. So again, if you've made a great connection with an employer, give yourself like a month or put something in your calendar to just do a follow up, do a check in, follow them and see if they do any posts and stuff like that, comments on them. Just different ways you can engage with people in a professional way is really important. And as I know you're all aware, social media, employers will Google you. So before you start reaching out and connecting, make sure you Google yourself to see what pops up. But the interesting thing is, if you have a LinkedIn profile and someone goes to Google you, it is one of the top 3 things that does pop up. So it does have a high level of engagement as far as the analytics with Google goes. So you do want to make sure whatever your LinkedIn profile has on it, it really is serving you in a positive way. So as we move towards questions, what I just want to leave you with is that at the Career Center, we have opportunities to meet with you one-on-one. So we can do mock interviews, go through your resume. We can go through your LinkedIn profile with you as well. So please log on to CareerLink and book an appointment with one of our career educator coaches, and they definitely are there to support you through every step of the way through this. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully there's some great questions and I can hone in a little bit more to you. So I'm going to stop sharing, and yeah, I'll go to Q&A.
Thank you, Dawn. That was a great presentation. I think, on the tail end of finals, it provides a lot to think about going into the summer. So this is perfect time to do this. If everyone wants to start entering their questions into the Q&A portion, we can start taking them and asking. I can kick things off. So I've often wondered that on that profile, you have that part to put your experience. And as students, we engage in cool projects all the time. So how do you take a project that's so niche and so complex and explain it on a profile and still get across all the uniqueness of the project, but in like simple terms and concisely, because you don't have hours to explain the project to someone?
Well, the gift is, and it's a great question, because I know students, that's one thing, you don't have the work experience. So how do you get the work experience and you have the skills, right? So set your work experience up as your work experience. So you put your research projects, break it down. That's the nice thing with LinkedIn. It's not a resume, right? And so you definitely can do that. So think of your university as your work time. And so exactly, so take a project, give it a name and say, here it was, this is it. And here's what I did from this time frame, and break out those skills. And that's the key thing, is to really be able to quantify and qualify the skills that you learned, because that's where the employer is really wanting to do it. And the other thing to remember is that you're the star of your career story. So even though there's others involved, this is why before you kind of write it all out, you want to make sure that you think it through, because your brain honestly will work through everything, right? When you start to go back to that moment in time, all of a sudden you remember when you were late for school, or you were feeling sad or whatever. And so your brain just opens up, I always say, this folder, and it starts from right at the beginning, which is great. You have to relive it. And then you got to go through and find out those key parts. So like you said, like, how do you break it down? And that's how you do it. It's like you're studying, you've got to read the whole textbook, but you can't memorize it. So how do you break it down? And then you break it down to those important parts. And that's where you want to get, what are those key things in that project that you're going to trigger, right? That are going to show and demonstrate. And remember, you don't want it to be the whole novel of your life, because you want to be able to intrigue them, but get them to call you. So I always say it's kind of like dating. It's like you kind of want to just put enough to create interest, but enough that they're going to phone you, not to put so much that I was like, okay, I think I know everything, and just leave it there, right? So you want to keep it interesting. And that's why, honestly, the work is before you put it onto paper there. Like it really is, like finding a full-time job is a full-time job. Even finding a summer job takes time. And so really writing that about me and writing those parts of your experience, you need to take that time to do the journey on paper before offline and go through it and work it. And that's why I would really encourage you to kind of do that and work with our coaches because they're there.
Mhm.
It doesn't cost anything for alumni or students. And we love to just help you guys create these great documents. So we do get the call that says, hey, guess what? I got a job. And I had a student yesterday that's all excited. She's going for another interview. And, she's been working with me for the last couple of months. So it's great to see that when you put that time and energy into it.
Mhm. Okay, advice taken. We have some questions that have come in, and I think this is a great one. It's asking, how do you write your LinkedIn bio if you're not sure what you're about to do yet? And you're interested in a particular field, but again, you're not sure what you specifically want to do there. I think thing a lot of students go through.
Absolutely. And you know what? So, and this is where, again, that research part. And so I think the part two is when you're in school, you're really focused on, okay, getting my grades, learning this, which classes to take, what not to take. And so I think this is the summer, like you said, perfect timing. Benji, right? Is now you have a bit of a breather, is to research, or you will soon. We get these exams, you guys, another week. Is to kind of like, okay, this is the research I'm interested. What are those companies that are doing that? Right, and then look at look at their business strategies. This is where I would go, what are their projections? Who do they want to be when they grow up in the next 5 years? Like, what's university's got their 2025 plan? What business, what's their plan? Where do they want to go? How do they want to make a difference in the world? And then does that resonate with you? Right, so this is the part where if you're not where you have to find that, you're graduating, you need that full-time job. If you're still in that discovery, and you might still be a young alumni and doing that as well, explore the company, explore the interesting, get curious. And this is where it comes down to which companies resonate with your values, because you know what, guys, you're not going to necessarily know the job title you're going to get. And the other thing that's great is because most of the jobs are hidden. And I say that because, we always know accountant, doctor, lawyer, teacher, kind of the basics. But there are so many jobs inside organizations that you have no clue exist. And actually, with the shift in COVID, they're saying over the next 10 years, about 40% of the jobs that are going to exist don't even exist yet. And we don't even know what the heck they are. So it really is based around skill set. So it's really you just identify, what do I enjoy doing? What are my strengths? What are those key skill sets? How do I want to show up and support organizations? How do I want to, my legacy? That's what I always say, long term, you hear the thing where, if you're 85 and you're sitting there, what's important to you? And you can't specifically say it, but we all have values. We all have certain things that have meaning to us. So it's that passion. So really getting in touch with what that is, what we value, finding companies that kind of resonate with us and get curious, and then find out, are they living their mission, vision, values? Because not all do. Some have nice words on paper, but when you jump into them, how do they treat their employees, right? 80% of people leave because they're the leader, their direct leader, not because of the company. Then this is where you have those career information interviews. Talk to leaders and find out, wow, I like you, you'd be a great mentor, that kind of stuff. This is where you get curious and play with it.
Mm-hmm. And you've touched on this in your presentation, but when reaching out in an email or with that LinkedIn message to a company or an industry that you're interested in, what can you say when, again, you're not sure what you want to do in that area, but you're still interested?
To say, hi, I'm, alumni. I'm at the university. I know if you're an alumni at the U of S or you're in this industry, I'm still trying to discover what it is within that industry I'd love to do. I've been intrigued by it. And I looked at your LinkedIn profile and, I noticed XYZ in it. And so I'm curious to learn more about your career story or about this specifically, right? There's a genuineness to it. So this is where you don't want to just look at their job title, like, okay, I'm going to reach out to them. Look at their LinkedIn profile, look at their company. And when you put in those little personal touches that's genuine and shows an authenticity to it and an interest, they're going to have the conversation. Because the thing of it is, all of us have been there. There's very few of the population that you're going to find out that they're in a job, which is what their dream job, dream title was. It'll be like a lot of them you're going to find is like, I thought this is what I would be. And I started there and then I pivoted over here. And this is how I got there. There's very few people that have linear career paths. Everyone's pivoted or tried something different. And so when you're reaching out, just be authentic. show that curiosity and say, I'm still trying to figure out what it is I want to be when I grow up. And your industry seems interesting. And I was intrigued by your profile and I just want to learn a little bit more with you. If you have 15, 20 minutes, I really appreciate that. If you send something like that, I guarantee if they have the time, you're going to hear from them.
Okay. I love that idea of still growing. There's someone that's a very specific question about on the note of social media, can employers request to see private profiles on Twitter or Instagram if they find one? And how common is that, perhaps?
I haven't heard it being common. To be honest, I would be intrigued as to what they're looking for. Because again, if they're asking to go behind the doors, you can go in and delete anything that you want. So I think it's not a case that they're necessarily going to ask for specific. It's more that honestly, they're going to check you out. And so if your privacy security settings are not set appropriately, that's when they're going to find stuff out. And the one thing to be mindful of is it's not just photographs, it's words, it's a language, it's how you articulate, because what they see is how you connect with your buddies and the conversation that you have and the words that you're using. That's what they know you're using in terms of at the water cooler, like, so behind closed doors when you're not in front of them and HR trying to impress, that's how you're talking. And so that's when what they're looking for is like, okay, so is that the kind of culture we want? And so depending on, how graphic or the language or comfortability you're having on a social media platform, they know that's the conversations you're probably going to have with coworkers and colleagues. And honestly, that's a lot what they're vetting out. And the part is you will never know that you were vetted out because of that. So that's why it's really, if you're starting to go into that professional mode, well, one, even if you're not, be mindful of what you're putting out there. Know that once you put it out there, it's out there. Someone's got a copy of it, even with Snapchat, they can take pictures, right? So just if you're wanting to go into that professional career, it does start now. So be very mindful of that. And in all honesty, you shouldn't be putting something out there that you don't want for public consumption, even if you've got the securities in place.
We can wrap up. So if anyone has any questions at the last minute to put in, I had one last one to wrap up while we wait for that. What is that one feature that you can add to your profile on LinkedIn that brings your profile to life? Because I find that there's so many different LinkedIn tools. So, and since you have that expertise and experience, what is that one tool or feature that people don't know about but helps you bring that profile to life?
That's a great question. Honestly, LinkedIn keeps changing so many things. So, but for me, the one thing that is, I believe, underutilized is your headliner and your About Me section, because we treat it as a way to just drop in text. And really, that is so important about how to shine, because it allows you to allow your authenticity and your personality to come out, what passions you about it. And so I encourage you not to write your About Me, your headline in the standard, typical kind of way. Be genuine with it, be authentic. And when you put that in, it jumps off of a page. And I know that from being in human resources, like looking at thousands and thousands of resumes, I can tell you right now, I never read a cover letter first. I always go to the resume, you read it in 7.5 seconds, but I have stopped and read a cover letter before a resume, very rarely. But there you can, it's like the words just jump off a page because there's just something that grabs you, and you can tell that person has really been intentional with it. And the thing to remember, there's always one person that really, really wants that job or puts that time and energy into it. And that's how they get noticed. So that's really what shows is the time and energy you put into it. That is really what jumps off of it. You can look at a LinkedIn profile and tell that somebody did it because a recruiter told them to, or someone from the Career Center said, you need to do this and show up, and you just kind of slap it together. That shows. But if you genuinely take it and get the value and put the time in it, because if you put the time into your profile, you're showing the energy and time that you put into you and the care that you're putting in and being intentional with getting the right career and fit for you. You're going to do that for me as an employee. If I hire you, you're going to be that intentional, that professional, and thoughtful. So why would you not hire that person that did a great job for themselves? Because they're going to do it for me as well. And if they slap it together for themselves, that they might just slap it together for me. That might not be true, but that's the thing, is that's the impression you're kind of giving off. So honestly, Benji, I think that's where it is you just have to put the energy and time, roll up your sleeves, commit to it, and work it. And like we said, it's a living document. So keep working it, honing it, and put your best foot forward.
Okay, thank you so much. This is the time we had for questions. And thank you everyone who asked questions. Thanks, Dawn.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. We have a small gift for you as a token of our appreciation. Therese will drop this mug off to you later this week. And Vedahi, thank you so much for moderating the Q&A. As a token of appreciation, we have a USask water bottle for you, and Therese will drop that off later this week as well. So this session concludes the Shift Weekly webinar series that aim to prepare College of Arts and Science undergraduate students, graduate students, and recent graduates for life after graduation. Thank you for joining us the past 5 weeks. As mentioned earlier, for current students who attend 3 or more shift sessions, you will receive a co-curricular record credit, or CCR. You should see this information populated in your record in the next few weeks. We'll also be giving out a USask bottle as our prize for today's session. And for those of you who attended all 5 sessions, you will be entered to win a pair of Apple AirPods. We will be contacting you, the lucky winner, by email later today. Thank you once again, everyone.